Welcome, everybody, to Color of Magic episode 249, your Magic Gaming podcast where we talk about all types of issues that affect gaming at and away from your gaming tables and computers. I am your host, PowrDragn. As always, with my main man in the shotgun seat, Brian Sonic. How's it going, dude?
It is going wild times out here.
Dude, I'm dying. I'm literally in the rabbit hole of Bloomburrow right now. Like, this week, I think I've had, by the time this week's done, I think I'll have something like 25 pieces of content out on my channel, which is just dumb. This is just, it's a crazy time. It is crazy. But we have some stuff that's also crazy because of some old stuff with Wizard, and we'll talk about that in a second. But do want to give a shout out to Brishan Miller, who's a patron, and you can also be a patron if you go over to patreon.com/color of magic. And I want to give a shout out here because he's been a supporter for a very long time and he's got some stuff coming up. We're going to be telling you about that in a future episode, some production thing they're working on. So I just thought that was really cool. Going to do a little bit to help somebody else out who's been supporting us for a very long time. I think he's been on for a couple of years now. So thank you for that, Brishan, if you're listening. I know you're listening, so thank you. But yeah, so remember, Brian, how I said, hey, we saw some crazy stuff in the tournaments and we saw some cards getting out of control. And now people aren't signing up for tournaments because these formats are not being what people want them to be. Everyone's pretty much busted that's not standard right now. Wizards came out and just said, nah, it's all right. Y'all can hang out for about another month. We'll be cool. I mean, that's basically what the statement was. Like, I don't even know what you do with that. Like, literally, people
don't play Modern, I guess is the first thing that
you don't play Modern, you don't play Legacy. Like, I mean, like, it's bad right now. Even Historic is a little rough because you still have all the energy stuff that just hit from Modern Horizons being on Arena. And it's like, we just had a tournament where we saw the results. Like we said, it was overwhelmingly energy decks.
This just doesn't feel like this came from the people, that actually design cards and check to make sure the format's okay. Because they had just said that they're looking at stuff and basically that they're aware the format's not okay. And then we get, this feels like it came from upstairs, but we talked about this. We're not sure why why upstairs would reach this conclusion. This seems like it's costing them money.
That's the part I don't understand. Like, now, I will say, I've said for years, before I was at Wizards, when I was at Wizards, and after being at Wizards, they do over-communicate. Because I think there's a point where they could have just said, hey, here's our decisions. There'll be more about it in the coming weeks or whatever. That's it. PR 101, you don't have to say much. The problem was they gave this roundabout statement of basically like an integrity thing, and we don't want to like disrupt trust and moving dates around or whatever, right? Like,
blah blah blah.
Yeah, like there was, and don't get me wrong, like I get it. If they tell you got to make a statement, you got to come up with something, but there was just no reason to say anything. Like it hurts people more that you made that statement other than just you made the decision.
I guess it was, you said, like, because I guess over communication, because they had already said we're looking at it. So once you've acknowledged, which I guess you almost have to kind of acknowledge that there's a problem. Like, I don't know how as a
it's obvious. It's obvious. Like you could see the tournament results. You could literally, like I said, there are tournament organizers who, with experience, with a history, have said like, yeah, we're just canceling the tournament because people aren't signing up at a rate we need them to because of the format itself. Right? We've reached a point where people playing the decks with the problem cards are in agreement of like, yeah, this is pretty effed up. They should probably do something. Right? Like, so people who have vested in these decks are still even saying like, yeah, Nadu should probably go. Yeah, Grief is messed up. Yeah, this energy stuff, it's not any fun, right?
This is a Magneto moment. Don't make us do this. Don't keep letting us play these decks.
Yeah, and I get it, right? If you're playing competitively, you kind of it's either play to beat it or you play it. Those are your only choices right now, right? There's no other middle ground. And that's not fun.
No.
Like we mentioned before, you don't want to go to a tournament and play against some variation of the same deck for like 6
you want rock, paper, scissors at minimum. Ideally, you'd love there to be at least 8 to 10 things that are viable, but minimum, You want rock, paper, scissors, because at that point, then okay, once you've got three things, then somebody can, that it's possible for other things to kind of sneak in there. But you
Yeah,
need
what
at
you have
least,
right now is a bunch of various rocks and then effectively some chisels that, like,
yeah.
occasionally you'll do a little bit of something, but it's probably not the best tool. You know what I mean? That's kind of where you're stuck. And I just don't understand. Like, literally, people have asked me, like, why do you think Wizard? I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, I would have banned stuff easily. You wouldn't even have to make an argument with me. If I was in a meeting and somebody asked my opinion, I'd be like, yeah, we should have done it yesterday. Like,
You figure it's got to come from the bean counters, but we don't understand how this makes them more money. So we're just completely confused.
yeah, because you're not going to move any more cards while people are just in a holding pattern, right? Because they're going to be waiting weeks to see what the next ban is or whatever. So it's like that doesn't help anything. You're not moving any more cards because more of those cards are likely to move at these big gatherings that are playing the older formats. But if those aren't happening, then, like, I'm assuming you're moving some percentage less cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even from a strictly business financial sense, you kind of want to do the things that are most positive because you're still trying to run down Lord of the Rings numbers from last year. You know what I mean? So you should want as much positivity to keep the money going because year over year, you know how it is. No matter what, people, even though last year was your banner year, people are still going to go, well, it wasn't as good as 2023's numbers, whatever.
Or has somebody just decided that nothing magic related will ever will ever trump universes beyond? Did somebody just kind of? I feel like they could still be wrong, but there may have been somebody up top that just says, you know what, you won't top Lord of the Rings. We're not going to worry about it until you come up with
Possibly.
the next huge crossover property. And again, I don't know even what that would. Obviously, I think Marvel will do stupid amounts of
Well,
numbers.
yeah, we have Final Fantasy and Marvel next year, both.
Yeah,
So, like,
so
2024 or 2025 might be the actual peak of sales we will ever see because you have two ridiculous hot properties. They're going to get full sets.
which is that's what everybody who the critics of Universes Beyond, and that's the scenario they warned, is where Universes Beyond could get so big that they just stop caring about the actual Magic brand, and this feels like that because no matter what dumb thing you do, and we both seem like this feels like the wrong decision, but Marvel's still going to bail them out next year, no matter what dumb thing they do. There's no way you don't sell those cards. Don't just go hand over fist, and we all know this.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, I don't think this is one of those decisions that's going to do like irreparable harm and whatever. It's just going to make the next several weeks be bad for people who like those formats because you're just going to have to wait till they finally ban some cards. So it's just like, hope you like Bloomborough. You know what I mean? Like, maybe go play some standard. Maybe that's their plan. Of like, hey, go check out a pre-release. Maybe you'll pick up some standard cards in the interim. Like,
Yeah,
maybe that's the plan. I don't know. That's the best I got. But yeah, man, it's rough. I like, and I think about every other game. Like, if there's a problem, like when it's that bad, it doesn't take very long to go, hey, we realize this is a problem, we got to do something. Like, and there's just a statement of, hey, we looked at all the tournament results, we saw this thing, obviously we followed all the discussions, we agree it's time for a ban. Unfortunately, this is what we got to do. Now, I did see most recently there was this crazy thing in Lorcana where instead of banning a card, which is apparently in a whole bunch of decks in their format, they're just errataing the card, which is fine. Like, we've
yeah,
seen that in other games where you're like, okay, this card works this way now. The weird part is they're changing like three things on the card. It's not
that
like
is.
because usually it's like, okay, we're gonna change the cost and now this costs 3 instead of 2 or whatever.
Yeah,
Or
that's
we're
typical.
gonna make it smaller power toughness, or like instead of drawing a card, it does this other thing instead, or whatever, right? Still sucks, but at least it's just one thing you have to know. The fact that they're changing multiple things and that's going to supposedly going to be their way to deal with bannings going forward, that is worse. I don't like that.
Yeah, because you're gonna need, like, you can turn to Yu-Gi-Oh. You need a little list of
Yep.
how things work now.
And maybe
Especially for
that
a
could,
game that it's a game that's supposed to be a gateway game for people that maybe haven't played a bunch of card games before. So
yeah.
yeah, that feels bad.
And I don't know, maybe that's a Disney thing. right? Like maybe there's like, you can't ban any of our cards. And like, well, we don't know how to fix it without doing this. Maybe Ravensburger got their
That
hands tied. I don't know.
again, that does sound like a business thing. That they
So
were not a
it's weird though, because the way it was explained to me by the players is it's not even like a super popular character among Disney lore. It's just like some side character. So it's like, I would get it if you're like, okay, you're not going to ban a
Mickey
Mickey, a
Mouse.
Minnie, a
Yeah,
Goofy, whatever, right? But if it's, or an Aladdin or whatever, but if it's not one of your headline characters, who even cares? You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like, meh. So yeah, there's some weird stuff going on right now as far as companies wanting to ban cards or not. It's tough, and this is the part that just makes gaming unfun for people because if you play, we'll say historic, modern, legacy, you kind of are just, like I said, just sitting around waiting because you don't want to play those matches because it's just going to be the same stuff all day and that's boring. But that's the format you like to play because you like the cards or the decks or whatever, and it's tough. So I feel for people. I really, really do. I'm glad I'm a standard player right now and some commander stuff because that's still alright, but not feeling it on the other older stuff.
Is that the plan to just ruin all formats until Commander is all that remains?
Maybe. I mean, I don't
I'll
know.
throw
It's
that
possible.
conspiracy theory out there.
I mean, I say that, but Sanders actually been really good for a minute, so like
Yeah.
they're at least getting that right. So I got to give credit where it's due. But yeah, speaking of which, I've been playing so much of the Bloomburrow stuff already today, and I got more this
Are you
evening.
seeing mice and rabbits running back and forth in your sleep at night?
Bruh, let me tell you, like, I don't know if it's in my sleep, but I definitely have woke up just like animals on the brain, just that's where the mindset is right now. But all right, I do have a quick quibble before we get into our what did we learn this week. And I say quibble being a thing that I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this that makes the most sense. But there's just a lot of people, and it seems like a greater occurrence by the day. And yes, we're in politics season or whatever, so it's going to get worse for the next probably 4 months or whatever it is. But the number of people that want to go just leave a comment or post about a thing that they genuinely don't know about or have no expertise in, or hell, didn't even read the actual post correctly is astounding. And don't get me wrong, I've seen the internet. I know that it's a thing.
Yeah.
But man, it feels like we're just at this accelerated rate right now. Like I've literally seen stuff where somebody's started lifts like a word wall, like something that took them like 10 minutes to type. And had they just read the actual post for what it was, they would have known they were wrong from the get-go. Like every person responded to like, dude, did you even read that? Like, how could you like be so full of yourself that you're like, oh, they're gonna get a piece of my mind, and you take 10 minutes to type out this thing that's not even close to what the thing's talking about. Or even in my case, I think I told you this off there earlier. I had somebody go to one of my deck techs for Bloomburrow and complained about why I wasn't playing certain cards. When I'm like, dude, it's standard. Those cards aren't even available. Like, of course I would play them. They're better cards. Like, yeah, no question. But I can't. So this is the option. But it's just like, want to complain about you being a terrible deck builder and this, that, and the other. It's like, dude, like, I'm playing within the rules of the game. What do you want me to do?
Don't do that. Don't play to
Yeah,
the rules.
yeah, basically. Hell, I'm sure you get that with all the games you play. You probably win the game, and somebody goes, "Well, yeah, but if you'd have run this other play, you would have scored 2 seconds faster, or whatever." Right?
Right.
Like, it's like,
Or people that don't realize, hey, we're making content. There are people, especially at WWE, you'll know in the first 2 seconds, like, this person can't hit me. I could
yeah,
drop my hands. They would still never be able to hit me, but this video needs to be 8 minutes long. So hey, let's do something different.
that's fair. That's the other thing too. That's a very good point because I feel like in this day and age, people should also understand that like some stuff is just for the sake of making something different or creative or whatever. It's not
Right.
about being the best or most efficient or whatever the case is, right? sometimes you just say, let me try. And I've done that too. You know, like, hey, I'm going to make this weird deck with these oddball card choices just to see if we can make it work. And of course, somebody goes, well, this is a worse combo than this other stuff. Like, yeah, that's why I mentioned it in the first 2 minutes of the video and said specifically, we're not doing that because we want to try this other thing. Like,
Because I
like
was trying to, I told you, and I mentioned on here, I was trying to figure out how the people at the top of the WWE leaderboard were having, 40 or 50,000 wins 2 weeks into the game. So I was just trying, like, is there any legit way? And the fastest match I ever had, I think, was 2 minutes. So I said, okay, maybe if every single one, but still,
yeah,
they
that's
never
what I'm
fight anyone.
saying. Like,
But I'll say the fastest match I ever had was 2 minutes. So yeah, I can do it, but you can't make it. If you have a 2 minute match, I'm going. I need 4 matches now to make a decent video if it happens. So,
yep, all squash matches.
right.
Braun Strowman against Rey Mysterio, squash match, right?
And if it happens once, sure. If every match is a curb stomp, then no, it's not fun to watch. It's not fun to play if everything is a curb stomp, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's the other thing too. It's like you still have to think about the viewer and a lot of the content that you're making. And I think that's something a lot of people don't understand either. It's like, could I do the other thing? Yes. But this is more entertaining, so I'm going to do this instead. Right? That's a real thing in today's content creation. Like I don't know why that's such an issue for people. But it's been frustrating to watch because my process when I see a post or a video or whatever and something doesn't make sense, my first thought is, okay, well, let me read the comments because maybe there's something I'm missing. And then if I still don't see the thing I'm missing, I'm like, okay, well, quick Google search because maybe there's a thing like maybe my knowledge is wrong, right, on this thing. And then if I still can't find anything, sometimes I'll just leave a comment or leave a question of just like, hey, could somebody explain why this is this way? Because it just doesn't make sense to me because I understand it to be like this or whatever. And a lot of times I've been educated on stuff, and that's cool. So now I know more. But it's weird to just be like, all 10,000 of y'all that have commented are wrong. Right? Here's why this is the way it is. It's like, really though? Like I'm the only one that happens to be right? Like, that's probably not true. Maybe every once in a while. There
Yeah.
might be that 1 in 1%, whatever, but not as common as a lot of these people are that are popping off.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I can't. Like that's just one of those things, especially this week when we're dealing with all these new cards and you're trying to just show different interactions and you're just speculating on things and oh, the number of people that like they're magically experts on everything and I'm like, dude, do you not understand what's going on here? Hell, I literally this one I get you. I had somebody who literally responded because me and Dev on SBMTG, we did a video that was 10 sleeper picks from Bloomborough, basically underrated cards. They literally comment like, well, how can these be underrated if the set's not even out yet? I'm like, but that's literally like
We
the
have
idea there.
spoilers. We've all known what
There's
was in the set for
yeah.
what, a
I'm like,
month?
it's sleeper picks because these are the things nobody's talking about, and we think
Yeah.
they might actually be you. That's literally the whole idea.
That
Because once it's
argument might have
proven,
applied before the days of the internet when we had to wait,
yeah.
but no, we've all known. We know. We'll know what's the next set. We'll know whatever that is here in a day or
But dude,
two.
we're preparing for fantasy football season, right? There's people are going, hey, here's your sleeper picks for late round draft picks on running backs or whatever.
Yeah,
If it was already proven it wouldn't be a sleeper pick, they'd just be good or bad.
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like
Derrick Henry ain't a sleeper.
Yeah, that's literally how it works. Like if we knew the cards were already good or bad, we wouldn't be making an underrated picks video. We just be like, here are the 5 best and 5 worst cards in the set. Cause then it's already been proven. Right.
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
there are so many times where the thing we were all on doesn't turn out to be the thing. It's something that nobody was talking about. How many times is that?
oh, there's a card from the original Innistrad that Brian Kibler had picked, and he believed in it so much. He was like promoting it. He even picked up a bunch of extras or whatever. Card was never worth more than 50 cents. Right? Like it just
Yeah.
happens. Like things can make sense, but then the format changes or certain decks get bigger or whatever, and a card just never gets to shine. That's just the way it goes. But man, the number of people that are magically experts on everything, it's mind numbing sometimes. Like it's okay to hell. And I've even told people today when I was streaming, people ask me a question on a thing, and I'm like, man, I can't tell you if this card's any good yet. Like I haven't even played with it. It might be, I don't know, right? Or I know somebody who's already had a deck built with it. I'm like, hey, you may go check out their video or something because I know they were talking about the card or whatever. Because man, we don't know all the answers. That's part of doing what we do. Sometimes we're just experimenting. But hopefully, through the experimentation, if you're willing to go on the ride, we learn a little bit of something. That's all it is. But yeah, I can only imagine in your space because you're doing, like I said, you're doing WWE stuff. You're doing football stuff, which already comes with a whole other pile of fandoms
Yeah.
where they're all experts, obviously.
And I did have a moment where I felt like, yeah, okay, I feel like I'm right here, and they don't, because they were talking about like defense is a struggle on ESPN football. I think we all acknowledge this. So they're talking about what defensive plays they run and what kind of. And I think somebody said, "How are you stopping the computer on Heisman?" And I told them it was somebody else there, but I mentioned, I wasn't stopping them. So what I did instead was I started running offensive practice with UNLV. For those of you who don't watch, possibly the worst team you can use or one of them, but they have a good offensive playbook. And I was practicing against Georgia, probably the best team you
best
can
defense.
use. And I was just trying to figure out, okay, I need to score every time. I'm running my offense until I figure out how to score on the best team on the highest difficulty using the worst team every single time. Yeah, but how are you stopping them? And I'm telling you, I'm not. I'm scoring every time. Even the best team in the world doesn't, because when I realized how hard stopping them was going to be, like, you know what? The game skews toward offense. I started to remember the Titans. I'm going to run these 8 plays. I will run them to perfection. These are the only 8 plays I run.
That's the other thing too, right? Instead of acknowledging that, hey, somebody else found a workaround, there's like, oh, well, you must be cheating, right? Like, there's no way this is a thing. And it's just like, no, you put in the work to find a solution, and that's the thing. That's exactly what I'm talking about, though. If somebody would take the time to just listen to you and watch what you're doing, they could now have better success other than just going like, oh, well, what you're doing shouldn't work. Just like, but it is, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it literally is. Like, what more proof do you need?
Plus 3-minute quarters. You can, if you found the play that they can't stop, you can hold the ball for the entire first half. They can't score if they ain't got the ball.
That's a good point.
And they're still like, yeah, but how are you stopping it? And I feel like you're not. I feel like y'all aren't listening.
But again, that's somebody that came in when their head of, this is a problem. This is the only thing that matters.
And we both agreed it is a problem. Yeah. Defense isn't. That's why.
But the solution is, here's another way around it to you figure out how to solve that problem. But man, I don't know. Those people, they just wear on me, brother. They just wear on me. But all right. There's a fun character you told me about that I am surprised is already out so early. And I want you to tell everybody about it because it sounds like fun.
Yeah, Multiverses, which for anybody that hasn't heard us talk about, doesn't know, is essentially Smash Bros, but make it Warner Brothers.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It really is a platform fighter with all your favorite Warner Brothers characters. And if you like a thing, a TV show or a comic book, wait, they'll get to it. Samurai Jack just dropped as part of season 2, and immediately they revealed it at EVO, which is this past weekend. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. And basically, hey, here's the trailer. Oh, by the way, season 2 starts. Hey, level 1 on the premium pass was Samurai Jack. Like, oh wait, he already here? Which is kind of crazy because the new character they've been promoting is Agent Smith from The Matrix.
Yeah,
technically still not available. He just kind of stole a lot of Agent Smith's shine. It's just, hey, it's great, especially for people that are younger than us and have probably never seen The Matrix, or as somebody thought he was the guy from Men in Black. I understand how that could happen. I get that.
Do you know what's crazy? The Matrix, I think, is 20 years old this year.
I saw Keanu talking, I want to say Stephen Colbert, and he just, talking about, first of all, that just blows my mind. But yeah, when somebody didn't recognize Agent Smith, I realized how old it is.
Yeah, that's crazy. Samurai Jack is one of those characters that, like,
and he ain't young either, to be fair.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not like what I would call a household name of a character, but it has a lot of support out there.
Yeah, people that, if you know, then you know. Cartoon Network, for that moment in the late 90s, early 2000s, just, man,
Yeah, that's cool that that's a character. Also interesting that I heard you the way you phrase it, like, they're, I guess, doing their updates by seasons is what they're calling it?
I think everybody with the battle pass, you have seasons.
Okay, that's cool.
It's just
I mean,
how we do things,
I guess that also opens up the door to literally mean anything under the Warner Brothers thing could show up there.
right? Because it's already been data mined that Powerpuff Girls are. You always knew. We said
Yeah,
anybody from that Cartoon Network era in the '90s, you know, we're gonna get Dexter,
yep.
Powerpuff Girls, and then also the thing I'm talking about any character from those properties, not just the obvious ones. Like for Adventure Time, Jake and Finn are both in the game, obviously. They dropped Banana Guard as a character last week.
All right, that's cool.
Nobody was
Why not?
expecting that. It's that
Man,
character where some people are ticked, like, hey, wait, you took a spot for that, but this is a free to play ongoing thing. So I guess there's really no cap on how many characters they're going to be able to do. Is as long as people are playing this, we'll keep getting new Warner Bros. So yeah, Banana Guard is also a thing.
oh, so I guess do they because they still have the rights to don't they own, like, Animaniacs and stuff?
Yeah, that's theirs. They added the water tower this season, and
Oh,
Braden
did they?
pointed it. Braden pointed it out to me because I was just having Samurai Jack. Oh my god! Did you see? Did you see the Warner Brother? Like, huh? What? Then I had to freeze frame. Like, oh god! Yeah, there is a
That's
Warner Brother
funny.
back there. I didn't even notice him because they had dropped. Well, they mentioned Samurai Jack in the other one because his sequel's coming out. Beetlejuice is going to drop at some point this season,
Oh, that's gonna dude, that's easy, their Halloween release, right? You get to
right?
October, Beetlejuice is an easy one.
And
Like,
so far, these people have been voiced by most of the main actors. So maybe Michael Keaton will do it. I don't know.
that would be cool.
Batman is voiced by the late great Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill doing the Joker. And Hamill said, he wouldn't do anything that Kevin Conroy wouldn't do. And so this may
Oh,
be
that's cool.
one of the last times that we see those two together in something.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, dude, that this is why when you first mentioned the game to me, hell, like a year ago, I guess at this point, like, I was literally thinking, like, dude, if this catches on, it does have the potential to be the top of its category
Right.
just because of the variety of characters. Because, dude, it feels like you get, let's say, a year from now, and you're putting, say, like 2 new characters a month or whatever. That's a lot. Like, and you're only tapped into not even a quarter of their licenses at that point.
LeBron James is a character in the game. I mean, they're doing
Oh,
everything.
because of Space Jam or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
LeBron James is
Yeah,
Warner
yeah.
Brothers IP now, and all his combos are it's kind of unique because okay, he has a bunch of combos that he does with the basketball as his main
Okay, yeah.
projectile. Then after he loses the basketball, he basically becomes an entirely different character focused on trying to basically the second he makes contact with you, he gets the basketball back. So
Okay.
the whole second character is like, I'm gonna hit you some kind of way and get the
Yeah,
basketball
I'm
back.
gonna I'm gonna shoulder slide you or whatever just so I can get the basketball.
And one of them is even the meme of him going like, JR,
Yeah.
what's that? What happened?
Man, I may need to check it out because I'm thinking like Martian Manhunter would probably be a cool one to play. Like,
Yep.
there's all kinds of things that
We
I'm
have,
thinking about.
I know who you're talking Marvin the Martian is in, but
Yeah, I mean, oh,
Martian
Martian Manhunter, the
Manhunter,
whole yeah, that's a different character, but
but
yeah,
he's also
yeah.
Warner Brothers property. So at some point, yeah, we probably will.
God,
You figure all
man,
the main members of the Justice League are going to get in there at some point.
their library is so deep. Because I'm
And
just thinking
then
about different movies they own. Like, it's a lot.
And at some point, when they're ready for another joke character, they can do Kite Man because Kite Man is a thing now. Just randomly, Kite Man, hell yeah, is the
That's
meme.
true too, right? It doesn't have to be A-list characters. It could just be like random one-off characters that had a fandom following online or something, right? A meme character you could still put
Yeah,
in
because
there.
Banana Guard is an obvious joke. I think one of his voice lines he even says, "Wait, am I the joke character?"
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, why
Long as
not?
you know.
Man, I just don't need that to be mobile available because then that'd be the thing I'm playing while I'm like on trips and stuff. Oh my gosh. Well, to go with your good news, there is some sad news if you're a fan of Halo. That after sadly just 2 seasons, the Halo show on Paramount Plus is over. They said they are not getting renewed for a third season. And this is what I'll admit, I'm not the biggest Halo fan, right? But I looked at it when they first started, because I saw the first ads, I guess like a year or two ago when they showed them during the NFL thing or whatever, and I was like, dude, this looks kind of cool. Like, even if you take the Halo name off of it, it looked like a cool space adventure,
Yeah.
whatever. But sadly, I also think because it has the Halo name on it, some people kind of go, it's Halo, whatever. And they said they're still shopping it around, so it might get second life somewhere. I don't know where right now, because you know how it is with streaming services.
And I feel like Paramount Plus is just they're obviously not dead last because they'll always have Star Trek in the Nickelodeon category, but I feel like they're close to last. Peacock, I think, is probably dead last, especially
Mm-hmm.
once they lose the WWE to Netflix here in a little while. But
Oh, you know they're whole clutching onto that, because once you
yeah,
lose that deal, it gets real bad.
they're going to be what's below dead last. That's where Peacock's going to be when WWE bails out,
You're in the boiler room. I don't know, like if we're
right?
layering them, right? You're way downstairs. Like, I don't know, but it's interesting though, right? Because is this like this is probably overstating it, but like, is this kind of like proving we're kind of experiencing the fall of Halo, right? Like, it just doesn't have the teeth it once had, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
have a hold on all the shooter gamers anymore.
Because if you Google Halo, you're gonna a whole bunch of the stories you're gonna see is like problems with the season pass or with the content. It just I love Master Chief. You know, we had so many good memories just in terms of gaming. He's not quite him anymore.
Yeah, and it's, man,
Some
we
of that
talked
is the
about it before.
genre shift. You know, first person shooters just are not. Other than Call of Duty, obviously, and Call of Duty is just grandfathered in because you got millions of people that it's the only game they play. And it will always be the only game they play, and they buy it every year. So it's just, and since nobody else really has been able to get that same penetration, so they're not a first person shooter, they are the first person
Yeah,
shooter.
yep, that license is huge.
Yeah,
Yeah, I we talked about it before. You kind of like seeing the OGs still doing their thing,
yeah.
but I'm with you. It feels like there's just been a big fall off on Halo, and it just hasn't kept up. And to be fair, that Bungie was bought, and then things
Yeah.
changed, and there was this thing and that. There's a whole bunch of history there to probably justify how a lot of this happened.
I mean, the Xbox brand, if we're honest, just isn't, obviously it's
Yeah,
which is crazy to say about the most profitable company in gaming, but they're that because they went and bought Activision Blizzard and just, you keep
and
it.
bought them some Minecraft.
Right. Yeah. Anytime they're close to not being relevant anymore, they can reach out and buy not just any company, but the company, almost whatever company they want, they can go buy, and they've been doing that. But yeah, the Xbox brand as a whole, and this is no secret, part of how they got Activision Blizzard was telling the FTC in court that we so bad, we're so terrible. Did you know we've never won a console war? Then I thought about it. Oh my
They're not
damn, that
wrong,
they're right.
because it's either
They're
been
absolutely
it's either been Nintendo or Sony.
yeah.
Yeah, like,
Which and we were talking about how big Halo was. I was just like, no, that can't be right. And then yeah, it actually is right.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, like, Nintendo's pretty stealthy sometimes, though. Like,
Yeah.
we'll get to talking about Xbox and PlayStation, and Nintendo's quietly over here selling 200 million units or whatever, and you're just like, wait, how many Switches did y'all sell? Hold up a second. So yeah, Nintendo don't.
Also,
Mhm.
it's possible that there'll never be another console war because we are now in an era
Yeah,
when MLB The Show, which is literally made by Sony, is on the Xbox. It's
yeah.
just and they're both doing this.
I think the question, as far as that goes, might just be, what do new consoles, if we won't even call them that anymore, look like?
Because
Right? Are
Xbox
they?
just revealed a thing where you can play Xbox in the cloud. The only piece of equipment you need is your smart TV and a Fire Stick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, is it
No
even a
console
thing anymore?
necessary.
Are we just buying blocks that are just computers, and we're just storing stuff to play on our TV? You know what I mean? Like,
So I think we'll still have the fanboys holding their brand wars, deep, deep into the
yeah,
corners of the internet and the message boards, like they are somehow. You talk about complaints. If I had half of the money that I've been told I got paid by Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, I'd be on an island somewhere.
bruh, let me tell you.
I'm
Like,
sure you feel like how if you had the money that you supposedly have been paid by wizards.
oh my god. Like, if you say one thing praising something, it doesn't matter if it's Wizard, hell, WWE, anything I've talked about. People are like, "Oh, well, you must be trying to get in their pockets for content or whatever." And but I'm like, dude, I just like a thing. Like, it's not like, what's wrong with y'all? Like, and don't be wrong, I at least get it with sports because like your team directly goes up against the other team, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a thing that actually happens. But and all these other things that people get upset about, it's like,
And even as
what are we
somebody,
doing?
again, a sports writer, even in sports, I'm a Laker fan, sure, but I have nothing but the utmost respect for Larry Bird,
Oh,
for
sure.
Kevin McHale. If you go
Yeah.
like that, for Paul Pierce, for Kevin Garnett, and now, for Jason Tatum, because yeah, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to hate the Celtics, but legitimately, yeah, I don't hate them. I just want the Lakers to win.
Well, to be
I
fair,
have no
we still
ill
don't know if
will.
Paul Pierce faked his injury that one time and then tried to come out look like a hero during the finals. I'm just saying, that's the
Okay,
one. I'll give you all the other ones.
then you respect the Emmy job.
Yeah, exactly.
It ain't like LeBron and the Lakers. It's not like Superstar. Hey, foul, foul. I'm so
Oh,
hurt.
for sure. For sure. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think people getting caught up in that, it's just a mess, you know. But I think it is, in some ways, I do think Halo kind of shows a shifting of the tide a little bit. That for you to really make it with the license, you have to still be relevant, right? Just being a
Yeah,
legacy license isn't enough anymore. Like we saw with Lord of the Rings, but also like that was an all-time epic cultural whatever. And there was this plan for 3 epic movies and this whole thing.
yeah.
And like, you know, but it's rare to have those old licenses these days really carry that unless they've just
And
been top of mind for that one.
they were all phenomenally well done. Even the choices on which characters to put in and
Yeah.
which characters to leave out. Like the one that we always come back to is, how could you do it without Tom Bombadil? And then people, okay, yeah, obviously he's a great character. People love him. But in terms of advancing the story, exactly what does Tom Bombadil do? And Peter Jackson made, in my opinion, the correct choice. That yeah, we just don't have time for Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's something I hadn't really thought about, but that makes a lot of sense. Like I'm with you on that because if you go back through the movies and you really say like the stuff they left out, like you ask yourself like, what does it add if they put it in?
Exactly.
Other than another 15 minutes to an already 3+ hour movie or whatever,
Right.
right? Like, probably not anything beneficial. So it's like,
Like there's
yeah,
also a part where I think Boromir said something along the lines, if I found the One Ring, I'd have left it along the side of the road, and they took that out because the whole
yeah,
point of the movie is the one that no man can resist the One Ring. If some random guy in some
yeah,
random city
exactly.
can resist the power, it just loses a little something.
Well, that's also it too, right? For people who haven't read the stories, what you're saying like is a good point, right? It wouldn't make sense. But like if you understand how he's not affected by things and this, that, and the other, and you're
Yeah,
like, oh, okay, well then yeah, that's the guy that could. Right. But you can't just throw it in a movie again without adding another 15 minutes to explain the background and how
yeah.
magic affects them or doesn't, and blah blah and all this, right? And that happens with a lot of properties. I wish more people
In
understood that.
wrestling speak, we're putting Frodo over right now.
Oh
Okay,
yeah. Yeah, yeah. For real. For real.
this is Frodo's story. We got to make sure nobody looks better than Frodo at the end of this,
Well, it's
right?
gotta get look good all the way to the pay-per-view or you don't have a payoff, right? That's the
Exactly.
problem.
We're gonna create a whole new series of threads now about the
Hell,
Lord of the
okay,
Rings Wrestling
okay.
Federation.
I'm gonna take a detour here in this episode, only because Brian told me about a thing that I didn't
Oh
know was a
God.
thing, and
Oh
I'm
God.
like, I am beside myself that this is real. But apparently, I'm gonna let you tell people how you even found out about it. I don't want to ruin it. This is your
Yeah.
glory.
Yes, I mentioned I've joined the fan-sided network of sites right over at Game-sided, and as I was looking for some of their ways to pitch us, one of the things they mentioned was that hey, we love to get weird. We publish fan fiction, and I'm sitting there going, I'm on the sports site, right? Like, and so I'm like, wait, where did I click off? Or maybe they're just referring because they own a bunch of sites.
Yeah,
Maybe they're talking about one of the Star Trek or more nerdy sites. Did I click? No. Somebody had legitimately written LeBron James fan fiction.
I just I
I'm
can't, man. I am like again. I understand the internet's a huge place. There's something
right?
for everyone. I keep finding things that are out there that I'm like, oh, there's a whole culture out here I didn't know anything about.
Yeah.
But that one, Like,
I was yesterday years old when I learned about LeBron James fan fiction.
and the thing is, even as you told me, like, my nerdy ass, I'm sitting here like, what kind of weird things in sports? Because we could do stuff about this is how the Cubs got cursed. This
right?
is the Cowboys can never win a championship because their team owner made this crazy deal or whatever. Like infinite things you could do. I'm just like, it
It's
makes
like I saw
sense.
somebody had done, I want to say on TikTok, they had all 30 or however many NHL teams there are, all of their seasons described in one quote from The Simpsons. And it was brilliant.
That's awesome.
Because
So I
since The
mean,
Simpsons have been on for infinity years, they were able to find a quote for every crazy situation that it had. We say Simpsons predicted it, whatever it
well,
is,
that's
Simpsons
true.
predicted it.
Simpsons did it. But yeah, I will say, like, as crazy as that sounds, the more you think about it, it almost makes sense that that's a thing. And that's
Yeah.
what worries me. I'm like, I can't think about it too hard or it becomes like a real thing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so hey, cool. Somebody got paid for it though. So,
Right?
props
That's
to
how I
them.
knew I was among my people at that point.
Yep. I ain't hating. But all right, let's get into a couple of quick topics because we did have some stuff to talk about EVO. So we had a couple of, I guess if you want to call them like milestone moments that happened at EVO this year. The first being, and I didn't even know this was a thing, but apparently we hadn't had an American win a major tournament in Street Fighter in I don't know how long.
I think 22 years, I want to say, I think
Yeah,
was the
something
drop.
like it was more than 2 decades.
I used to cover Evo pretty regularly for Gamertail and a couple of the other sites I wrote for. So as soon as I said that, I thought back, like, I didn't, I mean, I guess I kind of internally realized it, but I didn't know how long the drought was because I think in real time, I probably only covered it for about 5 or 6 years in a row. So I didn't realize the drought was that long.
Yeah, and that's wild considering how popular the game has always been here in the States. Like
Yeah.
every version, hell, every arcade cabinet, whatever. Like Street Fighter has always been so. And again, I'm not entrenched in that culture, so I'm with you. I didn't realize it'd been a 20+ year drought, but an American
That's
finally won.
soon as I mentioned it, I thought about some of the players I've written about. I'm like, yeah, I was trying to think of somebody American that you would even consider, and then I think about who I was always covering in finals bracket.
Yep. And I tried to dig in a little bit on some past stuff that I could find through Wikipedia and a few other places. Like there have been some Americans make some deep runs,
Yeah,
but they hadn't won it. So it was like, okay, that and it's kind of fitting that it feels like in the Olympic year, right? Like, of course, that's when
there you go.
Americans decide to
Yeah,
step up. like we don't care about international stuff, but the Olympic year comes around and everybody, we got to get our USA gear or whatever because we're going to be
yeah.
hardcore Americans for 2 weeks of the Olympics or whatever.
You could watch gymnastics anytime you want to the other 4 years, but swimming,
Yep.
figure skating, they're on TV all the time, but most people are like, no, we
Oh,
care every
dude,
4 years.
the equestrian stuff with the dancing
Right.
horses or whatever, just like like dressage. That's what it's called.
I'm glad you knew
It has
because
an actual name. Like
if anybody had pressed me, I would have
also
knew.
randomly for people that don't know, I believe breakdancing will be in the next Olympics. That is a
I
thing.
saw that, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't know people were still breakdancing.
Yep, it's a
That was
thing.
news to me.
There's also a crazy one, and this is a rabbit hole moment if you don't know about the Olympics. I forgot what it's called, but it's like over the top kayak racing is the only way I can describe it. Like, so you start on a platform. So you don't even you're not even in the water. You start on a thing that drops you into the water. And then you're on this like course that's, it's a pre-made course or whatever with rapids or whatever in it. And at one point of the race, you have to do a full 360 vertical turn in your kayak or you cannot win the race. Like that's part of the requirements of the race. You have to
Yeah, when you said over the top kayaking, I'm like, are there characters?
Oh
Are
no,
there
no, like
angles? Like, what are you
it's
talking?
it's absolutely great. I don't know why I don't know who came up with it, but I was like, this is
I've bet a TV executive if I had to guess.
yeah, it's
That's
wild.
especially
Like,
with Olympic stuff. It's like somebody. When I was at the Times, I interviewed a guy from Shreveport that was an Olympian in Taekwondo, and I felt so bad for that man because Taekwondo got cut so they could add ballroom dancing. because
Oh,
Dancing with the Stars
yep,
became the
yep.
phenomenon that it is, and then I think Strictly Come Dancing, I believe it's called in the UK. So yeah, they
Now
got to hurt you.
the good thing about the Olympics is sports do come and go from the Olympics. People don't know that, but like if stuff doesn't have as many countries participating in it, or ratings are down, or this, that, and the other, or new sports just get way more support, they'll cut others. That's how we got like basically the X Games added to the Olympics, right? We have
Yep.
biking, we've got snowboarding, we got whatever. Those replaced other older sports that people just weren't participating in as much. But yeah, on the Evo thing, we also had the other big moment was we had 3 black gamers win 3 major events at Evo for the first time, which was also kind of crazy. Because again, I know a ton of black dudes who played a lot of fighter games growing up.
Right.
Like that is totally a thing. And I hadn't even thought about it that being a thing.
Same thing. Me, as somebody that covered it every year for 6 or 7 years, it's not even thought about it in that particular way, so to speak. Especially
Which,
like,
yeah,
let's say Sonic Fox has been winning a bunch of tournaments for a long time. So
yeah, I've seen
I
his
knew
name a
that.
lot.
Yeah,
So I know he's been out there.
I knew Sonic. Or Sonic Fox's pronouns are they and them, I believe. Unless
Correct.
you,
Yeah. But the interesting thing is that I almost think that's a good thing that neither of us, it was never really top of mind, right? It was just like, oh yeah, there's enough black people that play these games or whatever, and you see some of them competing and you kind of just go like, all right, cool. But then when somebody brings up and goes like, we're like, oh crap, that's never happened before, right? For as many of them that have been playing, that's just not been a thing. And it's like,
yeah,
cool. And then Sonic Fox had one of the best quotes. Like they were interviewing them after their win, and there was like a couple of the other like finalists and stuff or whatever at this panel, and they say this is for the LGBT community, this is for the
right.
furries, this is for the minorities, and really was giving that speech of just stick with it, keep doing what you're doing, don't let people beat you down. You can
Yeah.
just put your mind to it, you can do a thing, right?
We
So that was
talk on
pretty
here
cool.
all the time about marginalized communities, and as Sonic Fox rightfully pointed out, they represent several of them.
Yep, all in one person for real.
Yeah, and are out there dominating the fighting game sphere. Just I'm talking about every time there's some kind of tournament, you're gonna see Sonic Fox. And if it's a game that they play, they're gonna be in the finals bracket. You can set your watch by it.
And awesome that furries got a shout out. So
Right?
like that ain't something that happens that often.
It
So
does not.
oh man. Also credit to Punk to God and Nitro being the other 2 players as well. So I believe 2 of them were, I think, were in Street Fighter, different games or whatever, but two in
Yeah.
Street Fighter, and I think one in maybe Tekken was the other one. So good on them, man. Also, if you're into video games at all, I would recommend going and watching some of the coverage from Evo. It was well done all the way around. Like their camera shots are cool. Just they've figured out how to film their
Yeah.
event. Like they've got it down to a science.
And I
I feel
think
like,
Sony has officially purchased the Evo tournament now. So that is going to obviously
oh
up the
yeah.
production value and the amount of money that's put into it and all those things.
So yeah, everybody like that is how to me, I watched that and I went, yep, this should be the example for video game tournaments.
Yeah.
Like
They
they've got it.
always have been always been just really incredible.
Some other interesting news because we talk about, you know, content creation and, the things we put work into trying to get people to watch it and look at it and whatever. Sometimes, dude, it's just the dumbest thing you put up that people decide that gets them going, right? You just hit the right moment at the right time. And I'm going to tell you again, having animals on the brain, I'm thinking about content or whatever. So a few days ago, I'm going to bed and I'm like, you know what? I just had a fun idea of let me find a picture of some mice or rabbits or whatever just fighting, right? Because that's what Bloomborough basically is effectively. It's
Yeah.
it's it's woodland animals fighting. So I found a picture of 2 rabbits fighting, and I realize a lot of people don't know what it looks like when rabbits fight because they do a lot of like jump kicking and whatever because they're rabbits and have insane legs. So I find a picture of 2 like an airborne combat effectively, and just simply put the statement of Magic players are 1 week away from this.
Right.
Dude, I woke up the next day and that thing had taken off. Like, there's people in different countries retweeting it and talking about it. It's got like 40, 50 comments. It's I think as of today, it's 250,000 views on this stupid post. And I'm like, all the stuff I put time into, all the things I'm like
Yeah.
scripting out stuff. Oh, like, and then it's just a random late night bedtime thought that, I literally just put up from my phone at the last minute before I went to sleep. That's the thing. It's like you just never know, man. You just never know. But there was also some news, and we'll cover this. Speaking of content creation, from we'll call it the MrBeastiverse. I don't know what you call that. His space, because he
When's his
dominates so
platform
much content.
fighter dropping?
Yeah, exactly. He
Surprised somebody
dominates.
hadn't done like a YouTuber battle thing. If somebody does that, I want some credit.
Fair. He's also the first guy now to cross 300 million subscribers. The first account, not even person. Like, first account to be 300 million subscribers on YouTube, which is insane.
Most countries, so that's like the entire United States. I said most countries on Earth aren't even close to that big. That's insane.
Like at one point, somebody tried to do the math that like they're estimating something like 1 in 10 people or 1 in 8 people or something like that on the planet have seen a MrBeast video. Which is crazy, right? Like you could literally walk around and be like, take 10 people, guarantee realistically 2 or 3 of them know who MrBeast is. Just random folks at the mall or whatever.
I was explaining this to my wife, how his problem is more than not so much, basically like he'll run out of people on Earth almost before he runs out of.
Maybe
It's to that point.
I hadn't thought about
Everybody
it.
will be part of the. We're going to get to a point where there are no more people left, and then she says, "What? I don't watch him." Crazily, within 1 week, I think Braden turned her on to one of MrBeast's videos.
There you go.
And like, I know you're not watching the MrBeast video, and you were just saying like, "Not me. I'm not part of the MrBeast."
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hadn't subscribed though. You still watch it.
Oh, dude, turn her on his philanthropy channel. Like,
I think that's the one she was watching.
Yeah, like that's the stuff that gets you, and you're just like, I can't not watch this. Like
right.
It's just good, wholesome stuff. I can't. But that being said, dude's worth hundreds of millions of dollars now. He's got a huge deal coming with Amazon for some wild game show. They're going to give away like $5 million or something. But you got to protect your money.
Yeah.
And sadly, a very serious story had popped up sometime in the last week that I've been seeing stuff. So 5 or 6 days. But apparently his friend Chris, who has recently transitioned, and we talked about that story about a month ago, stuff had been popping up, and it's kind of hard to tell what's real, what's not, because obviously we know people like to attack transgendered folks or whatever.
Yeah.
So there were some stories that there's a chance some number of years ago that Chris had some communication that was possibly inappropriate with an underage person. And obviously, immediately, you're like, all right, got to find out what this is about, because this is obviously bad news. Then there was some follow-up where apparently one of the people they supposedly contacted had come up and said, hey, that's not what this was at all. So starting to be some clarity to it. But even with all that being said, MrBeast had to make an official statement and just say, hey, on future videos, Chris ain't going to be part of the projects. Right? Just go home, take care of yourself, your family, your mental health, do your thing. And it's tough, right? Because you get into a spot like MrBeast, that you're worth more than several companies at this point, right? Like this is real. And he kind of got attacked both ways, right? You aren't supporting your friend now, particularly your transgender friend at this point. But then there's also other people that were jumping on because like, well, keeping them around's a liability and blah blah blah, and it's like that's a tough spot to be in, man. Even if it comes out that it's not particularly true, but anything can be construed any which way that's wrong, that has implications for him literally in the millions of dollars. Right? That's tough. That's tough. Because people, and I think it's easy to be on the outside of a situation going, well, I would always stand by my friend. I would do this. And I was like, but yeah, you are not in that spot, man. That is
And
hard
you
decision.
should never, by the way, say I would always stay. If my friend like the quad, if I heard you were, contacting underage girls, we can't.
Absolutely,
we can't. And I know you feel the same way. You're like,
absolutely.
no, we can't do that.
Like,
You're just that's part of what's wrong with our community now. Not just, I mean, gaming, as we know, has a huge problem with this. We've seen it in
Yep.
Magic. We've seen it in multiple fighting games. Or
Yep.
if your friend is doing some some illegal or immoral, you can't. I get it. Like, obviously, if you can do something maybe to help them find a job that's
Sure.
not with your
Sure. Sure.
company,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
different thing. But no, you can't be just, hey, patting on the back like, hey, sorry that happened to you, when they're not the victim. Now, we got to stop that. That's why we can't get creepy people kicked out of our spaces, is because people are, well, what about, how many people were saying Dr. Disrespect? We need to hear more. We need to
Yeah.
know more about this. And within 10 minutes, you're like, all right, yeah, I might have messaged an underage girl inappropriately. That happened. But nothing was, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
see.
Here's another thing too. Like, well, I'm not close friends with somebody who's worth like hundreds of millions a month or whatever. But if I was, like, or any business, honestly, if I was attached to somebody's project or whatever, I would be willing to step away just the same. Of just like, hey, I know this is going to be pressure on you. I don't want to even you to have to
Yeah,
make that decision, you know. And that conversation may have happened too, because just like, hey, for PR purposes, tell them you let me go, whatever. It'll
right.
look good for you, you know. Say, do what's right for you, your family, and the business. Like,
These are the things you got to negotiate. Like, we just saw this happen in journalism, where I'm sure you saw the press conference where the reporter was just, for lack of a better word, creepy to Caitlin
oh,
Clark.
dude, yeah, that creepy's the best word. That's what
Yeah,
I would say. Creepy's the best word.
and you just can't. And now the crazy thing is, the guy got to keep his job, so he still covers the fever, but he apparently does it from like his house, as the way a blogger from,
Yeah,
a blogger that doesn't live in Indiana, the same way they would cover the fever.
which is
Literally, I could cover the Indiana fever as well as he does, even better, because if I lived in Indiana, I'd be allowed in the building. He's not allowed in the building,
exactly. That's saying, and that alone is like, if you've already had to put basically the equivalent of a restraining order on your guy,
right?
probably shouldn't be covering them anymore.
Yeah, I think
You
you
know?
should let him go at that point. You should. I feel like you should really only get one. Sexual harassment feels like a one strike and you're out kind of
Not
thing
and not
to
even like
me. You know.
I could even understand if something accidentally or something was misconstrued or something, but when everybody goes, nah, dog, this is creepy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you got a problem. You messed up.
What other way can you take? Where he did the heart gesture, the delirious, like the thing her friends and family do, when that's
Yeah.
already too familiar. Then to compound it by saying, "Hey, you keep doing that to me, we'll get along just fine." What?
Yeah, that's also weird. That's also weird. You can't, man. You can't. You can't. Like, and again, there's a point where you could have stopped and you kept going.
Yeah,
Right? Like, you made it weird, man. You made it weird. So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, this is a little bit of a story. I think we'll see more resolution on this over the next few days as more of the stuff comes together. But this is that thing. I think we're going to keep seeing this as the world moves to more content creation and more stuff online. That these are businesses now, not just
yeah,
personalities, right? So they have to, unfortunately, for better or worse, function as businesses.
yeah. In the words of Jay-Z, I'm not a businessman. I'm a business man.
Yep. Because people don't realize, like, when you're at MrBeast level, he employs like a team of editors, like actual craftsmen to help build sets for his stuff. Like, he has back office people, you know, he's got cameramen he pays. Like, so something going bad affects, hell, I don't know, probably 100 people or something. You know, like, that's real. Like, that's a lot of people's livelihoods. So you unfortunately, that's something we don't talk about a lot, but I feel like that's going to become more of a conversation as just society moves forward and content continues to grow. You're a business. We might all be very small businesses,
Yeah,
right?
but still,
But you're a business and you got to treat it as such. But all right, we're gonna end this with a fun conversation. And man, I'm gonna be interested to see what your answer is because I don't know. I thought about mine throughout the show. But if you could play a character in any movie or TV series, what would it be?
I guess Green Lantern. That was always, one of my
Oh, that's a
childhood
good pick.
heroes. So
That's a good pick.
John Stewart if it's live action, and if it's a voiceover project, I could probably do anybody.
I didn't even think about Green Lantern. That's a good one. Also, because it's kind of open ended. You get to do a lot of stuff as Green Lantern.
Yeah, that's part of what I love about it as a writer and creator. Just with anything you can imagine, you can make it with that power ring. There's a
Dude,
great panel where they talk about like John Stewart, for example, because he is an engineer. So we said if he designs a construct, he's an engineer. Whatever construct he makes with light would be, it's it's perfect because it was built by an engineer. He probably doesn't need to do that because it's a giant green, but that's just
well,
the
sure.
way his mind works. If he makes a locomotive or something, all the parts are there. It would function if you built it
That's
that way.
funny. I hadn't thought about that because I remember when Kyle Rayner, his whole story of just like the Owens show up and like, hey, here's a
Yep.
ring. Crazy
Hey.
guy's going to be here in like 2 days, so good luck, right? But but it was like he was an artist. So who
Yeah.
was going to be the most creative person ever with the ring? It was just like he can imagine insane stuff that the other guys never would on how to use it.
Yeah,
And I'm
he's
like,
always making giant battle mechs and
yeah,
anime creatures, and whereas that's one of the ways they show, kind of the Lantern's personality. Because Hal Jordan, the main one that most people our age probably know is Green Lantern, a lot of times he just conjure big green boxing glove.
yeah,
So
exactly. Here's a fist.
what's the
Yeah,
solution to this problem? I punched him in the face. So
yeah,
not creative. Did it work? Yeah.
yeah. I'll make a big green battering ram to get through this thing. It's like, yeah,
Yep.
okay, sure. So yeah, that's definitely a cool idea. I hadn't thought about that. All right, mine is a little camp because I was thinking back, like, what's the youngest I remember thinking this would be really cool to do? And man, if I could have been a character in a Ninja Turtles thing and hang
Oh
around with the
wow.
four turtles when I was
Oh, you don't
younger,
want to be a turtle. You want to
no,
be.
I want to be
You
the.
just want.
I just want to be
You want to be
part of the
April
universe. Yeah,
or
just because I want to hang out with the. Yeah, like an April, but just be the friend of the turtles. Right? We could go do all the crazy adventures. I get to joke around with them. Like, give me, because dude, put me in there and I could crack jokes with all the Ninja Turtles. Like, shoot, I'd do that in a
yeah.
heartbeat, even as an adult, if you let me.
All right.
Like, man, because that was the
Jose
thing.
Canseco bet. Tell me you
Exactly.
didn't pay money for this. One of my
Exactly.
favorite lines
Like
ever.
the type of jokes you could get away with in today's stuff and be creative as an adult. Oh man, I would love to do that. Like, and I know it's not an answer people expected that are probably listening right now. Are like
I was not ready for
Ninja
that one
Turtle,
either.
but I
The
remember
Ninja Turtles, but then to not want to be one of the turtles. That's an
no,
actor right there.
because like
You
if
ain't got
I'm
to be a turtle. You just want to be,
yeah,
in
because if
the
I'm one of
mix,
the
so to
turtles,
speak.
I'm taking away one of the personalities that I like to be around. Right, so it's like let me just be part of the crew of the four turtles and then go on the adventures or drive their van or whatever. I could be their Casey Jones, whatever. Like,
I was about to say,
yeah,
could
let
you
me
be
do that.
Casey Jones?
Like, I don't know if I need a hockey stick or whatever, but we could figure it out. Like, we can make it work. But yeah, that's mine. Some of the Ninja Turtle action, which also crazy that property has lived as long as it has. I was thinking about that the other day. That
Yeah.
all the way from the Eastman and Laird, like early 80s, like hardcore Ninja Turtles,
Yep.
through like four different versions of cartoons and three or four different iterations of movies, and like
Yeah.
still selling action figures. It's just like, man. And sad story too. If you go back in the history of those two guys and how they had a falling out and then they tried to get back on some projects, and like it's tough, man, considering how popular that license ultimately became. But
They were just born to be comic book characters. Robert Wool has a great monologue talking about how they come up with the whole teenage mutant ninja turtle. They are I don't like you said, because the original comics were kind of a parody of X-Men comics and the comics that were popular at the time. It's ironic that they became the thing they were parodying. Where if you think about famous cartoon or comic book characters, yeah, turtles are going on
oh yeah.
40 years now.
Well, the wildest thing when I was younger, I started putting stuff together and realized that they were, and it turns out later, I reading stuff from Eastman and Laird, that they were big Daredevil fans. So their stuff is basically inspired by Daredevil because it's like the
Right?
ooze is
Yep.
basically the stuff
That
that dripped
radiation.
through, yeah,
Yep.
that got Murdoch or whatever. And then, he had Stick as his trainer, so they got Splinter, like
Yep.
whatever. So it's like it was all there the whole time. Like
Right.
they couldn't say it for legal reasons, but that's what it was.
And they're fighting, giant robots. No matter what the problem is, I got a bow staff. It's fine.
Yep.
I got this.
Oh man! All right, Brian. Now I left people with some Ninja Turtle memories. Why don't you tell everybody they can find you on social media?
All right. I am Brian Sonic on Twitter and YouTube, and you can read my writing now at Game Cited.
Yeah. Also, congrats on the writing gig.
Oh,
That's a
thank
big
you.
deal. You can find me everywhere at PowrDragn, PowrDragn. And right now, if you want Bloomborough stuff, oh my God, there's like 20 plus things on my channel. Go check it out over on YouTube. But as always, wherever you are watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please remember to take care of yourselves and your family. Remember to be awesome. And most importantly, be awesome to each other.